Thanks so much for joining me. I think I'm starting to sound like a bit of a broken record with all this talk of heavy rain and flood potential across the Canadian prairies in recent days, but we're really truly seeing the June monsoon this year, especially given the potential for yet another heavy precipitation event as we go through this weekend and into early next week. So let's talk about that and see where that weather maker currently is. And we can see this swirl here on water vapor imagery. This is our upper low here. Basically in the northeastern Pacific, just off the Alaska Panhandle. This is going to shift its way southeastward in the coming days, and we can see that here on our modeled 500 millibar winds. This is about 5 kilometers above the Earth here, and we can see, based on the European ensemble, that upper low slowly moving southeastward into the northeast states into the weekend, and really starting to see an atmospheric traffic jam setting up here. This upper low is going to be boxed in on all sides by high pressure. This upper ridge here out in the Pacific to the west. We've got ridging through the heart of the continent to the east, as well as this sort of cut-off upper high to the north. That's really going to be blocking the movement of this low out of the region, allowing it to kind of sit for a few days, tap into moisture, and deliver heavy precipitation. This particular upper air pattern that we can see here is what's known as a Rex block pattern, when you have this upper low beneath this upper high. And so we can also see, as we get into Sunday, this upper low sort of reconstituting itself here in southeastern Alberta. Along the north side of that upper low, you're going to really start to see those easterly and northeasterly winds ramping up and pushing back toward the terrain here along the Rocky Mountain foothills of central Alberta. That could really drive heavier precipitation totals locally in that area. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. As well, to the east of this low, we can see this strong southwesterly jet stream kind of overspreading the eastern prairies, which could support the risk of severe thunderstorms from Saturday through Monday. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that as well. Again, like I say, this storm system tapping into rich moisture. And it's really, with these strong southeast winds across the continent, really drawing it right out of the central United States and back here into Alberta and Saskatchewan, wrapping into the storm, feeding that storm, and really enabling it to produce heavy precipitation across the region. So let's take a look at our precipitation forecast here. Looks like our first wave of rain and thunderstorms really begins through mid to late day Friday. A lot of convection in there as well. Northeast BC, northwest Alberta, central Alberta, even southeastern Alberta and far southwest Saskatchewan by late day, seeing rain and thunderstorms in the mix there. Through Saturday, that really starts to kind of spread eastward across Saskatchewan with rain and thunderstorms across southeastern Saskatchewan, southwestern Manitoba, and that rain continuing through central Alberta as we're seeing that low sort of pivoting over that zone, which is why we're going to be seeing heavy precipitation in this area once again. As we get into Sunday, heaviest precipitation really sets up through the kind of middle third of the prairie provinces, and that low pressure system slowly starts to move east. We start to see that northeasterly wind in behind starting to push into the terrain there. And that's when we start to see that really significant upslope enhancement across parts of the foothills, mainly from west of Calgary up toward the Edson area, central foothills, west of Rocky Mountain House. Lots of lift in the atmosphere as a result of that air being forced up the slope of the land through Sunday and even into Monday. And what that looks like here on our 850 millibar winds, this is a few hundred meters off the deck here in Alberta. And you can see the center of that low circulation here in south central Alberta on Saturday. And notice there's that sort of northwesterly wind down, just east of the foothills. But as this low slowly moves to the east, we start to see that east northeasterly wind ramping up to the north of it, and that starts to pile into the terrain here along the central foothills, really supporting that upslope enhancement, and likely with that moist flow really pushing into the terrain there, could see some enhanced heavy totals of precipitation northwest of Calgary up toward Edson along the central foothills. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. And of course, as we see this storm system through Monday, we'll see a renewed push of rain and thunderstorms on Monday, and then spreading through central and central northern areas of the prairie provinces as we get into Tuesday, with this low continuing to swirl across the region, bringing unsettled conditions, more rain, showers, thunderstorms, even into Wednesday across the northern areas of the prairie provinces. Again, taking a look at our precipitation totals, this is from our European ensemble on the left and the Canadian ensemble on the right. We can start to see, we're starting to see higher confidence of the heaviest totals with this event really along the terrain there, likely really enhanced by that upslope wind later in the storm system as we get into Sunday and Monday. perhaps totals in excess of 100 millimeters through those areas, and a secondary kind of zone of heavy totals there along or south of the Yellowhead Highway. Unfortunately, for areas that have already seen a lot of rain in recent days, looks like there's another big rainfall coming through much of central Alberta as well. Much of central and southern Saskatchewan and much of sort of western, central, southern Manitoba, perhaps not the far southeastern corner of Manitoba, but you're getting in on a lot of this rain as well. Perhaps eastern prairies probably going to be a lot more convectively driven. That means there's going to be a lot of embedded thunderstorm activity, and some of these storms could produce really heavy, torrential rains at times, much like we saw earlier in June. So there's the potential that we could be seeing some areas picking up a lot of rain with this. So again, a lot of convection in the eastern part of the prairies as a result of this storm system. Again, precipitation totals, precipitation forecasts in general are not overly skilled. That's why we still see, some discrepancies between these forecasts. And there's, this type of weather system is quite complex. Things could change in the coming days. But basically what we're seeing here based on the European that was, this model was ran on Thursday morning. Heaviest totals as of Thursday morning's run of the European here, west of Calgary even, and along the foothills northwest of Calgary, with totals here modeled in excess of 100 millimeters of rain as well. Getting close to that 100 millimeters, sort of 70 to 100 in central sections of Alberta and into western parts of Saskatchewan. The Canadian has that bullseye of heaviest precipitation a little bit further to the northwest as we get into sort of more Edson, Rocky Mountain House area. And also it has the heavy precipitation not quite as far north. It's actually a little bit closer to the city of Edmonton on this particular model, with less precipitation perhaps out in east central Alberta. So maybe this would be the model run that you would hope would be a little bit, what pans out in reality, because there's a lot of wet soil across central Alberta. But this just goes to show that we still have discrepancies. Our models aren't quite in agreement with this storm system, but nonetheless starting to get increased confidence of that heaviest total sort of in the, the central foothills of Alberta and also across much of central Alberta in areas that have already seen a lot of rain in recent days. Looks like because this low is kind of pivoting over southern Alberta, we may actually stay relatively drier with this storm across parts of southern Alberta and far southwestern Saskatchewan. Again, we'll have to see how that pans out. But again, with the heavy rain expected through central Alberta, we could be seeing renewed flood concerns there, especially, we've still got overland flood advisories in Beaver County and Lac St. Anne County, both sides, east and west of Edmonton. Lots of water out there still pumping out the town of Tofield there. And so, this is going to perhaps renew those flood concerns. The soil really cannot take any more moisture. The difference with this storm only, this isn't even really much of a silver lining, but compared to the last storm, this one's, where we saw a 2-day storm last time, this is more of like a 3-day storm and perhaps slightly less totals overall through the region. But, it's still going to be a lot of water coming down. And for areas where there's water already over the fields, it's just going to be adding to that. So we're going to have to watch out for the potential of renewed overland flood advisories and water supply alerts as well as we get into this weekend in central Alberta. So we're not out of the woods just yet. Looks like we could be seeing renewed flood concerns through central Alberta, especially in these areas here where this precipitation overlaps these zones where the soil is basically saturated through east central Alberta, Edmonton region, and areas to the east. We're going to be seeing, like I say, could be seeing more overland flooding as a result of this system. Now, currently, River Forecast Center still has some lingering high streamflow advisories there through the middle third of the province. They've been slowly dropping off, but, I don't work for them, and I don't want to speculate too much, but I would assume that we're going to see, the renewal of some of these high streamflow advisories, perhaps back into some of the areas that we've seen in recent days, but also perhaps further to the south here along the terrain here, the central foothills. Perhaps maybe we even see some flood watches along some of those rivers, depending on how much rain comes. If we get a ton of rain, especially along the Front Range, we'll see what happens downstream. So this could be, of course, we're going to be seeing high stream flows again with this. I mean, these streams are already high. So again, if you get that runoff into the streams, They could be even higher this time around. So overland flooding, perhaps even a risk of some river flooding, especially in low-lying areas with this storm. And finally, to round out this discussion, thunderstorms, especially in the eastern prairies. Friday, like I say, there's going to be some thunderstorm activity from northeast BC into northwest and central Alberta. Later in the day, perhaps southeast Alberta and southwest Saskatchewan into the overnight. Our main area of concern is basically right along the U.S. border and far southern and southeast Saskatchewan, late day Saturday, perhaps into early Sunday. Monday, southern Manitoba looks like the center of that risk, but we could be still seeing some risk back here in parts of southeastern Saskatchewan and into Monday as well. Another round of severe thunderstorm potential from parts of central southeast Saskatchewan into central southwestern and southern Manitoba. For Monday. So again, these thunderstorms are likely going to be bringing torrential downpours. So areas, if you see these training thunderstorms that move over the same area several times, you could see the risk of localized flooding, especially in areas that are really saturated there in portions of southeastern Saskatchewan, western Manitoba. We'll have to watch out for that area once again. But otherwise, thunderstorms could also bring the risk of large hail, damaging winds, and even tornado potential, depending on if all of our ingredients come together just right. So very active pattern. It's certainly going to be important to stay weather aware in the eastern prairies this weekend as a result of the risk of severe thunderstorms from Saturday through Monday. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time.